joining us on the very first episode, the introductory episode of the Politics of Development podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Deborah, and I'm so honored to be sitting on the same couch with you. You know, when you're somewhere and there's so much power in the room, I feel like there's so much power on this couch. It's just flowing because I like the way you carry power with so much humility because you have so much experience in governance. You've literally rubbed shoulders with really great people, and you're here on this couch just to lecture, to teach, to share experience, to just close some knowledge gaps regarding politics and governance and the approach and how to just really get involved in governance on the continent. So I'm so glad that you're here. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm well, thank you. And
Okay.
I'm also very pleased and count it a privilege to be sitting on the same couch with you, Deborah.
Jesus. I'm going to just frame. I don't know. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to frame it and listen to it every night. Thank you so much. So I don't want to introduce you. I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. So,
Who are you?
well, my name is Seyi Adisa.
Okay.
I am a passionate individual that wants to see development in our space, in people and in our communities. I am a John Maxwell leadership coach, and so I have been teaching leadership for a couple of months now, and I am also one that is always looking to see how we can help people in terms of businesses. I have a foundation, 7-Eleven Foundation, that is about helping startups. I'm married, I have a daughter, and that's me. I'm just a young person trying to bring development to the people I represent, and also obviously try and get as many other people into the political space to also bring development to the communities around them. And I believe strongly that Nigeria is a great nation, and it just needs to overcome some hurdles. And that's part of what we're here to do: encourage and enlighten people so that they could get into development, and Nigeria, the task of nation building can happen.
So what you didn't share is how involved you are in politics. And I want us to get into that. So I want you to talk to us, what's your story, your political journey, share with us, and why do you think that this conversation is really important? But first of all, tell us your political journey. How has it been? How did you get started? Because I know that you're a lawyer by training. So how did you even get into politics? Did you?
So story time. So it's funny, but it is true that from a very young age, as far back as secondary school, junior high, I just had this, strong sensation in my spirit that I was going to be in governance.
Okay.
Now, sometimes I've heard people say that you don't know where it's come from, but it's sort of deeply rooted in you. And so when we got to senior high, it wasn't difficult for me. I didn't have the issue of should I do sciences or arts. I kind of knew where I was going to. And so I did art subjects. I did government. I actually enjoyed government a lot. And I started researching as well. What do political leaders have? I realized a lot of them studied law. And I thought to myself that, so law in itself is a profession, but it can be a means to an end. And so I went on to A-levels in London, to do my A-levels in London. I did politics, I did law, and I did business studies. And for my degree, I did law. Went to law school in England, came back to Nigeria, went to law school in Nigeria as well. And doing all of this, I always knew that at some point I would get into governance. So my plan in my head was that, I will become a successful lawyer and then transition into politics.
Okay.
But a year after leaving law school, I got the opportunity to get into politics. So I started off with an appointment with by the former governor of Oyo State, Senator Abiola Ajimobi. He appointed me as his principal private secretary. Wow. And that is a role whereby you're the admin man in the governor's office.
Yeah.
So I saw firsthand what it takes to govern a state. You know, Oyo State is the largest state in the south of Nigeria in terms of landmass, and it has about 10 million people. So I was working, you know, right at the back of someone that was managing or governing 10 million people. And
Yeah.
for 8 years, that was what I did. I was eating, breathing, living politics,
Yeah.
governance at firsthand, and that really exposed me to a lot of things, and it deepened my conviction that this is really, you know. So it's
for
one
you.
thing to think about it from afar. It's another thing to be immersed in it, and that was what I found out in the period of 8 years that I worked with him. It was immense, and you know, you see a lot of development issues everywhere, you know, not just of communities, but even of people. And, you know, it started to become a burning desire in my heart that we can do more. You know, some of us have gone through certain things in life that you just feel that if I was there, I would do things differently.
Yeah,
And if I was in
absolutely.
that position, I would do. So we would go to local government and we would see the state of affairs of things there and just be like, come on, you know, we can do something about it. And so I decided in 2018 that I was going to run for office. And it was a journey that started in its own self. And over the last 2 years, since 2018 or in 2020 now, I have been working a developmental politics journey, bringing development in different areas, in education, in health, in youth engagement, you know, and in sports, and even in infrastructure. And that's what I have been doing. I got elected into office on the 9th of March, 2019. And since then, I've continued. Same thing, looking for opportunities every day to bring development to people, to bring development to communities. I sleep it, I breathe it. Every time I meet people, the first thing I'm thinking is, how can I collaborate with this person to bring development to my people, the people I represent?
Amazing story. Okay, so I want to ask you, what is the politics of development? What really is it about? Because this is something you talk about a lot,
Yes.
politics of development. So
Absolutely.
for someone who has never heard of it or never read of it or whatever, I don't even know if it's written anywhere, what really is the politics of development?
All right, so politics of development for me is really what I'm saying is politics should be synonymous to development. Politics is the biggest platform to bring change, to bring development. And you see, in our part of the world, in Africa, we are not at this stage of our, you know, democratic systems. I don't think we've reached the stage whereby we're really talking about right wing or left wing,
absolutely.
Republican or Democrats, conservative or Labour. I don't think we've reached that stage yet, because the stage at which we are in the Maslow's hierarchy is still, you know, the early
base.
stages. And I think at this stage, the only ideology any leader in Africa should be focusing on at this time is development. We need to increase the rate of development of our people. We need to increase the development of our communities, you know, and this is in Nigeria, in Gambia, you know, in Zimbabwe, all over African states. We need development. And so I feel politics is the platform, the largest platform to bring development. And so that's why I keep shouting over the rooftops, politics of development. That must be what we all engage in. That must be the passion, the drive. We want to bring development to our people in terms of educating them and enlightening them and empowering them with skills and abilities to be able to bring change. And also the communities that we're living in. You know, a lot of basic amenities, they are not luxury. You know, having water isn't a luxury item. And having food on your table isn't luxury.
Absolutely.
You know, but in this part of the world, we've found out for a very long time that is the level we're still playing at. And that's why I'm saying the biggest platform must solve the biggest problems. Politics must solve development.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're about politics of development.
Absolutely. So I want to ask, your passion is contagious, right?
I hope so.
It is. But you're already solving the problem because you're a sitting member of the House of Representatives. So you're already part of the solution. You're already in the system.
Yes.
Why do you think it's important to have this conversation? Why should we listen here? Why should we even tune in or say, okay, I want to listen to this podcast episode? What are you trying to address? And who does it really matter to?
Well, so I found out that there are many people like me that are not
Okay.
happy about the state of affairs in Africa. We're not happy about undevelopment of our communities. We're not happy when we see children or young people not being engaged, not being productive. We're tired of seeing these things. And I feel it has become a responsibility for me to leverage on technology to bring many people into this space. A
Absolutely.
lot of times, in time past, it has looked like only certain people can go into political leadership.
Yeah.
Only certain people can engage. And I'm a living witness that if you know me, I'm naturally a quiet person. I'm naturally reserved. I don't fit the political image. But look at me. I've not just worked 8 years successfully by the grace of God. I have actually done 1 year,
Transition into, yeah.
of my mandate that was given to me by the people of my constituency. And I feel that with this podcast, we're able to get enough people encouraged and interested to say, look, I want to join politics. I want to I want to make development at a large scale, and I want to know how to do it. I want to, I want to stir the passions in the hearts of people. Because believe it or not, a lot of people are thinking these things, but they keep, the normal limiting belief and mental block goes, how do I do it? Who else is doing it? When should I do it? What should I do? These are questions in the minds of people that want to see development. I speak to people daily and I see that they want development, but the question is how. And so people limit themselves to their fields, maybe in education or in health. Okay, I'll just develop my little space. I'm inviting them that, look, there's space on the political table,
Yes.
and this podcast is supposed to talk about principles. It's supposed to talk about things that people can do to prepare themselves ahead of the opportunities to get into office. That is what this podcast is about. And it's not just, we're in Nigeria, but I believe the development problem is an African, problem at this stage. And what we're sharing here is principles that cuts across boundaries, that it doesn't matter where you are, really, you can bring development and you can use politics as a platform to do that. And
Okay,
that's
so
why we're having this
your
conversation.
ideal audience will be Africans
I
at home, or both at home and in the diaspora. And what kind of age?
To be
what kind of
honest,
people?
the criteria is I want to see development in Africa, in the people in Africa, in the people and in the communities in Africa. So if you're in diaspora, it doesn't matter if you're African. It doesn't matter what is
As long as
key.
you have the heart.
What absolutely what is key for me is that you have a heart to see development. You want to see development. You're passionate. Or better still, I've spoken to people that they're sure that is their call. That is a conviction in their hearts that they have to do. And too many times when I speak, I realize that many people just don't know. And so we're going to be having conversations to let them know, and much more than let them know, encourage them that, it's time to start to prepare. One of the things I learned early is that, there's a difference between preparation and planning. You
Okay.
prepare ahead of time. When you get closer to the event, then you plan. And so we prepare ahead of elections. We prepare,
interesting.
and then the closer we get to, when it's time to get into office, then with the other plans we have to do. I'm not sure we'll be able to say everything on the podcast, but we'll try and get people prepared for office and do the right things. And yes, obviously not everybody will go into political office. But there are
Okay.
also certain things people can do even without going into office to
In
engage.
their own space.
Absolutely, to engage political leaders and ensure that they're accountable and they bring development to the people.
Great. So we've been talking a lot about development. I just want to ask you, what does development look like? Like the ideal Africa that you see in your mind, what you're trying to achieve, what does it look like? Is it about having high-rise buildings and what does it look like to you? Let me not lead you on.
You see, development is a continuous thing, and it is premised on a pioneering mindset, a pioneering spirit. It's the spirit that wants to continuously be the best among the rest. It's a spirit that wants to continue, because if I define development as high-rise buildings, by the time we get to high-rise buildings, the other nations that are
I've
ahead
gone.
have gone farther up. So
Yes.
that would be a very wrong, matrix to use. But what I'm saying is that we must be competing. We must give our children, we must give the generations yet unborn the same opportunities and the same platforms to compete with, people born in other nations of the world. So development for me is it's continuous improvement. It's living at the highest possible level we can live at that time based on the knowledge available. So, we want our young people to also deal with artificial intelligence, because that's what
Absolutely.
is being done in other parts of the world, and Africa should not be left behind. So we want to see young people, so not just the buildings, but even in terms of knowledge, know-how, we must be able to compete with other people. So that's the sort of development I'm talking about.
Very-
First among the rest, able to challenge, able to
Pioneering
compete.
mindset, forward
Pioneering,
thinking.
always forward thinking. Absolutely.
Okay, we said that together.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so there's a lot of noise about post-COVID world, post-COVID world. Some of us don't even know when this post-COVID world is started, because so in some parts of Africa, we're just entering, and just interceding that things will be well. So I want to ask you, there's been a lot of disruptions
Yes.
by the pandemic itself,
Absolutely.
and it's affected education. I mean,
Yes.
a lot of people keep talking about migrating to online education, but the reality for many students in Africa is that we don't even have the infrastructure. We don't even have access to affordable data. There are so many challenges.
Absolutely.
I know of researchers that their research is on hold because they can't go into the field. I know researchers that they can't even they have to still buy maybe their reagents and all that, because they don't even, the universities don't even have the facilities to make sure that their project is safe and kept till school reopens. So it's not just education, it's across board. So how do you think that the post-COVID, how do you think we should react or prepare in terms of governance, politics, and this development mindset? What do you think our priorities should be as people, and as people interested in politics for the post-COVID world? What should be our priorities? And what areas of development should we be focusing on, really?
Right. So, great question. The honest truth is, nobody knows. But what I do know is that this world will not be complete until Africa has its own voice at the table. And no matter what people say, Africa has solutions, has ideas, has ways to bring, results to the table. So I feel Africa must also be part of the global conversation now.
Yeah.
We're all looking for solutions. We're all looking for vaccine. There is no limit as to where it can come from. It can certainly come from Nigeria.
But what should, sorry for cutting, what should Africa do where a country like Madagascar says we have a cure?
Yes.
And the global powers say, no, we have to validate your cure. We don't really know what's in your mix. There's this doubt. I feel like there's already this mindset outside the continent that something really phenomenal can't really come from here. So how do we deal with that, really? How do we...
It's the same way you deal with naysayers. You show them results. That's how you deal with naysayers. You show results. And so what should Africa do? African states, other African countries should come together and support. That's why we have the African Union.
Absolutely.
That the African nation should come together and support Madagascar's research or the cure, the proposed cure, and let it be tested in other nations in Africa. Let's test it. Let's support each other. Let's hold each other up. I guarantee you that if that vaccine or cure they brought out, if it starts to treat people in Africa, it wouldn't be long before other nations of the world come and say, please, can we have some? You don't need to argue with naysayers. What you do is you show them results. And I think that is what Africa must do. So rather than other African countries sitting there and saying, oh, it's Madagascar. No, it should be a joint effort. We heard you've done this. It will be interesting for you to come and present to us at the African Union. Let us also see, what you've done, and let's see how we can build it together. We need to be our brothers' keepers. We need to make sure that if the West or other parts of the world do not feel it's a good enough product just because it's from Africa, not based on any other, research, then the African brothers must stand up and say, look, we will support and we will try and bring, this invention that you guys have done out to the world. It's credit to Africa. It's credit to all Africans in general. So I think that's what we should do. I think, we must come together and we must find a way to support each other. Yes, Ejekashi. Let's do this together. Let's come
do
together.
this. Okay, so I don't want to start the meat of our conversation right now, because this is the introduction.
Yes.
And we have lots of time and plenty episodes to talk about these issues more in-depthly. So as we're rounding off now, I just want to ask you, what would be that premium counsel you would give to anyone who is your target audience for this podcast episode, like someone who is interested in politics, someone who's been thinking about it? What would be that premium counsel from your own experience that you would give to them?
Okay, so I believe the person that this will probably touch the most is the person that deep down has an interest in politics, governance, and they may be in banking, they may be in the health sector, they may be in the education sector right now, listening to me. But they sense that they have a role to play in governance. Certainly I want to and I hope this podcast will keep their hopes alive. It will continue to stir that fire within them. Usually, they are also preparing, I'd imagine, for a time to transition. Is that, this whole, podcast will help them. But, for me, if you're going to become a political leader, if you're going to become, a developmental leader, which is what we're looking for right now in Africa, there are two main things I feel every political leader must have. And you might want to say every leader in general. There's a man in the Bible, was King David. He said some things, brilliant principle he laid down. He said he led with the integrity of his heart and the skillfulness of his hand. With the integrity of his heart and the skillfulness of his hand. And so what that tells me, and he was a fantastic leader. He never lost a battle, I heard. And what that tells me is that for you to become a leader and a political leader, we need to check the heart.
Integrity of your heart.
Now, let me talk a little bit about the heart.
Please do.
So the heart is where, love, passion, courage, and all of those things are formed. You have to have love for the people. Please do not come into politics or governance if you couldn't give a hoot about people. You must love people. You must tolerate people. Leadership is tough. And the starting criteria, the foundational criteria is that you must love people. When you love people, you are empathetic to their needs. You're able to solve their issues better. And more than that, you're always looking out for them. And just like how COVID has come, it wasn't expected. But leaders will react in different ways based on, sometimes I feel, their care for their people.
What's in their heart.
What's in their heart. So it's not just the case of, the people are skillful, but the heart is so fundamental if you're going to become, a great political leader. You need to continue to look out for people, help people, and that includes courage, because you're going to have to make tough decisions for the people, decisions that they may not feel comfortable making themselves. It's said, I can't remember the name now, it said the leader doesn't just take you to where you want to go, but it takes you to where you ought to go. And that takes courage. And that's why your heart must be one that is pro people, is for people. It's strong enough to lead them. Be strong and courageous.
Before you go and talk, sorry for cutting you. Before you talk about the hand,
Yes.
the skill of your hand, I just want to talk to ask you a question about
Yes.
the heart. So a lot of people are in systems that don't work.
Yes.
Their hearts are already cold. They have
Yes.
competence. They have the skills. They can execute, but they don't have the heart. And the heart is so important. So
Yes.
what can you do as a person to feel again, to reawaken that love again? Because your country may have failed you so many times.
Yes.
Things are not working.
Yes.
You've practically have to struggle to get things done for yourself, but you have the capacity to lead. So how do you warm up your heart?
Right.
What do you do?
For me personally, when you are exposed to certain hardships around your community, and you walk around and you see young men, able men, but because there are no jobs, they're smoking or they're, living a carefree life. For me, what it does to me, it strokes a fire. Because if you can see that, it means you're in a position to influence them. You're higher than where they are at.
You can pull them up.
You can pull them up.
Absolutely.
And so seeing that for me should continue to, I can't remember who said, I think it was Bill Hybels, he called it holy anger. It brings a holy anger out of you. Not anger to destroy, but anger to build. It brings the emotions to say, look, we can't continue like this, and we must do something. And I think that is one of the things we must all do. For me, for example, during my campaign, I went to villages where they have to walk kilometers to get water. I mean, water is not a luxury. It is basic amenity that we must all have. So imagine a child born in those environments. He's born to a life of hardship, and from a leadership point of view, it breaks my own heart, and I think no, this cannot continue, and we must do something about it. Even though I'm very aware that there are some people that are more pessimistic than optimistic, and so when they see that, they are quick to point fingers at the government and say they have failed us.
Yes, exactly.
It's their fault.
Yeah.
And you know what that does? It makes them exonerate themselves. Like, oh, it's not us.
My responsibility.
It's not my responsibility. It's their responsibility. But there is another set of people that they see exactly the same thing, and they think, no, this isn't supposed to be. And not that they have to do it, but we have to do it. Those are the people we're speaking to. Those are the people I'm saying that rise up. We need to arise, and we need to build ourselves a tribe that will continue to bring development to the people. So I am mindful that, yes, different people will react. It was said that life is 10% of what happens to us. 90% is how we react, how we react to it. So, to answer you succinctly is that the more you expose yourself to injustice, underdevelopment, and things like that, it should stir your heart up to say, I am going to do something about it, and stop pointing the finger at other people. We are the government. And that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But we are the government.
Okay.
We are the ones that are going to bring this change. I've worked in government for almost 10 years. I know for a fact government doesn't have all the answers. I can tell you for free, government doesn't have all the answers. And that's why the whole Ejeka Seyi principle, let us do it together. Let us collaborate. Let the academia work with government. Let civil society work with government. Let student bodies work with government. Let private sector work with government. It is in this collaboration that we find answers, that we bring answers out, that answers come to solve the very issues in front of us. It doesn't have to come from abroad or outside. We have the answers. It's on the inside of us, but we have to pull it out. And these are some of the things that we must continue to talk about. So if you continue to expose yourself, I think it strokes a certain
warms
level
up your heart.
Yes, it made it. If your heart was cold and you see people in certain states, I guarantee you'll get hot very quickly.
But if you don't get hurt, you need deliverance. Let me just put that there.
Perhaps maybe you were not meant to be in that position.
Yeah, you were never meant to be.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the competence.
Now, so the hand. Now, the hand is capacity. The hand is competence. The hand is the ability to bring solutions. So, there's nothing more frustrating than somebody that wants good and wishes good and prays good, but has no clue on how to go about it. There is no advantage, so the hand is equally as important, and that is the place whereby we have grown ourselves, we have grown our expertise, we have grown our exposure, we have grown ourselves intellectually, our intelligences, our emotional intelligence, our physical, our environmental intelligences, to a capacity whereby we're able to lead people. Because leading people, obviously, as you can imagine, comes with a lot of challenges. It's not easy because people are drawn by different interests. Different people want different things.
Yeah.
But you must develop your capacity to lead, and you must develop your capacity in your field. And so all of those things, when we talk about the skillfulness of the hand, it is the ability to bring results. It is the ability to get things done. It is an ability to not just wish things but do things. And I think that skillfulness of the hand is so important. And to balance it is, you also have very skillful people. They're very good, but they have no heart for the people. And so what you find is they become manipulative leaders. They become leaders that are there for selfish reasons. They become people that are there or are in power for what they can get. And so when you don't have a heart for the people, you can get everything done, but it's actually at the disadvantage of the people, and so that's why we need both. And anybody that wants to come into politics, and particularly politics of development, which is our ideology, is that they must come with the heart and the hand of leadership. And I think that is so critical if anybody is going to join this bandwagon. Wherever you are, doesn't matter, in the finance, in religion, in health, in media, it doesn't matter. Those two skill sets, the heart and the hand, are things that we must ensure that we continue to prepare ourselves with as we prepare to take or come into this space. Wherever you are, continue to expose yourself, continue to these developmental issues, and continue to build yourself, build your courage, build your inner strength.
I think that's one of the things that this podcast is going to do, just help people build their capacities and help them see the lapses in their own life or their work ethic or whatever that they need to cover up for.
We're saying these things because sometimes people are thinking, I'm going to do this, but you need to be prepared. This same David I spoke to you about, he's the one that knocked out Goliath. But before he knocked out Goliath, he knocked out a bear and a lion.
So important.
Ahead of time before he knocked out Goliath. So there is a place of preparation. And if you look at my story, I had started to prepare for even through knowledge, from secondary school to A levels to university, and then I went through a period, if you like, call it apprenticeship, working with the governor, and serving and understanding what it takes to lead at the forefront. So there is a place of preparation, and it is key. No matter what field you're in, you need to prepare your heart and you need to prepare your hand.
And you need the heart to serve. I love the fact that you talked about apprenticeship, because a lot of people just, you see the glitz and the glamour of power and you just want to get there and you just think that I'm just going to stretch my leg and get there. But you need to serve your way through.
Absolutely.
And I really love that you did that. Absolutely. And guys, if you're listening, wherever you're listening from, this is not just theory. This man has lived this. This man has walked this. So before we go, because this is the introductory episode, and I don't want you to tell everybody everything yet. We can't even say everything in one episode because we need you to come back and listen to the next one. So I want you to kind of talk about yourself again and the important lessons that you have learned on your journey. Like, I know you've learned a lot of things, but maybe if you can just share like 3 things, like the behind the scenes of power, because a lot of people, they want to go into politics with the very wrong motives. And, it's easy to be attracted. Something must attract you. It's easy to be attracted by the fact that power, escorts. Young people have some young people, let me not generalize, some people have very misplaced priorities and reasons for wanting to get into anything. So I want to just talk to us about the backside, the back end of being in power. What does it look like? Just little, like snippets.
You
What does
see,
it look like?
I've heard some sayings. Number one, power attracts. You know, when you see power in his wholeness, it is attractive. You see power, and you're like, wow. You know, that is the ability to make things happen. It's the ability to change things. But obviously, we've also heard that power corrupts.
It does.
And the absolute power, they say, corrupts absolutely. You see, what power also does is it makes you think you're better than others. It makes you think that you're by reason of the office and everything you've now come into, that the others don't know as much as you do. It brings pride sometimes, and so when you say these things, I hear people say, oh, why do people forget when they get into office? They were like us
Yeah.
before, and then they got into office
They
and
just forget.
they just forget, where they were from Surulere like us, so we were
Yes,
not,
we were friends then.
but it's real life. It happens, but I feel some of the lessons I have learned is you need to have people you're accountable to, people
Accountability.
that you can be real with. I found that in my church. I still find that in my church and a few friends I have, and my wife especially. My wife is my she's the one that
Keeps
does
you grounded.
does the resetting. And you need that. It doesn't matter who you are, because there is a tendency to feel like, come on, what do they know? They don't have the information I have. They don't know the challenges we're facing. They're just talking from where they are. But it's very quick to miss it. And so you need people that will keep you grounded, that will keep that humility heart there so that you don't lose it. It is fundamental. And I've
Stay
seen
accountable.
too many people crash. Excellent potential, but where they feel they're just better, and they have an over evaluated sense of themselves, then it's only a matter of time. It's going to happen. It's like a downward spiral. And at some point, you just you land, and that's it. So I think humility is key. Another thing I always have found out is that one of the things people want from their leaders is not to tell us you are better than us. And this goes along the same thing as humility, or looks like humility, but you must always let people know, I am just like you. When sorry, I bring a lot of principles out from the word. And there's a guy called Absalom, related to this guy called David. And when he was going to take power from David, he played politics. So we have politics in the Bible, many places.
Of course.
He played politics. And one of the things he did is that he, like you said, had escorts. But other than all of that, when he got to the people and people want to reverence him as a son of a king, as a prince, he'll say, oh no, oh, if only you would have this, I'm just one of you guys. And that really made people to get drawn to him.
Yeah.
They were drawn to him, that, look at him now, he's just like us. This is the kind of leaders we want. And you would probably hear that a lot. Oh, this is the type of leaders we want. They are just like us.
Yeah.
So any leader that isn't able to, get that principle will suffer. And even when you think you have the power, ultimately the power is with the people. And, either they frustrate policies or programs, or they elect you out at the next possible time. So that's another thing. Another thing I tell people, which people don't know, is access. So the closer you are to power, the better. Doesn't matter titles. Doesn't really matter titles. I worked with a governor firsthand, so I know that you can be called honorable commissioner and just have that title. And somebody else can be called chief sweeper and have more power than you.
Because of access.
because he has more access to the number one. And you know, when I see people and you see their business cards and they have all these titles,
Fancy titles.
and yeah, that's not where power is. It means nothing. You know, it's the person that has access to the number one. That is where power lies. You know, and you can't really explain those things. People, oh, you know, I you know, he gave me a position so small. But the more valuable you are to the number one, the more access you get and the more power that is bestowed on you, and you're able to do more. But again, these are things that you have to be in office to know. And that's why I decided to share that one, because I know there are many things coming through my head I should
Many
talk about.
things have
You know,
been with you.
but I found out that, you see, when you have access, you stay relevant, you stay fresh, you know, you have the mouth of the king. And so when you talk, they're wondering, is it the king that said that, or is it he that is saying that? But it doesn't matter. We better obey. We don't want to find the wrath of the king.
Yeah.
And so we will obey. You know, so I found that, you know, access to you know, the number one helps. So let's bring it down for people, because that's me talking about you already in
Being in
office.
office, yeah.
And a lot of viewers may be okay, but I'm not in office yet. But you remember I talked about intelligences, growing capacity, and skill of the hand. These are important things that people must know. I've seen people coming from private sector and want to impose those same, you know, ways on people in the public sector, and they find a lot of friction, a lot of change that people don't want to do, and that's why you must understand some principles to help you change or develop the people you're working with. So a lot of things. I think I don't want to make it too complex at this stage.
We'll break it down.
We'll break it down as we go along. But what I my passion, my hope from this podcast is that whoever I'm speaking to or listening to me right now is starting to think, you know what? I've always thought I can do this, and with the help of this guy talking to us, maybe I can overcome the challenges in front of me, and maybe I can get into political office and make a difference. Because it's easier to talk when you're on the outside.
Yes.
The change happens when you're on the inside.
Inside, yes.
And no matter how many articles and journals and blogs that you write, is those that are on the field that matter.
Yeah.
You know, we have many fans in the Arsenal stadium. Sometimes 80, 90,000 watching.
Yeah.
But they can't change the scores of the game.
No.
It's only the
You
players
have to be a player, guys. Get into the game.
Absolutely. So you need to get on the field where it's happening. And that's what this podcast is trying to help people do.
And I'm so glad that you'll be coaching people on this journey. So that makes it's like coaching.
I will be sharing a lot of information.
Yeah.
You know, needless to say, I would not be able to break everything down to the technicalities, because different people are listening at different levels.
Yeah.
But hopefully in the near future, we will have courses, online courses and things like that can actually be more specific to specific needs. But you know, it will be interesting if our viewers or listeners, you know, send in emails or comments, questions that they would love for us to talk about,
address. Absolutely.
And you know, we will be very happy to share from our experiences and see how we can address the problems together.
Great. Thank you so much, Essay. So this is really like the first date. It's impossible for you to know the person you want to go out with on the first date. You can't know everything. So you have to come on another date. So we're inviting you to please join us on the next episode, the very first episode, actually, because this is the introductory podcast. So join us as we discuss the politics of development. And please send in your questions, comment on this video. And if you're listening to the audio version, please comment, ask questions, and we're going to acknowledge everything, all your comments. We're going to interact with you and engage you.
And subscribe to our channel.
Yes, subscribe. It's very important.
So that you can keep hearing us and listening to us, and more importantly, I'm here because of the people. I it doesn't matter what I know if I cannot pass it to those listening. So that is my priority. We're trying to solve a development problem that cuts across Africa. We're trying to solve problems that it's staring in our faces,
Yeah.
and we want to use politics. Which
And we're
is,
going to do that on this journey.
We are going to do that on this journey.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sharing essay from your heart, from the depths of your heart and the wealth of your experience. So, guys, you have to catch us on the next episode of this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
I look forward to seeing you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.